Hello, hello! I'm so excited to be making this video because during my third trimester I would watch one of these almost every day. I would try to watch a hospital unmedicated birth. That's my baby, Crosby. But I'd try and watch that so that I could just be prepped and just get a better understanding and kind of manifest the birth that I wanted. So I'm so excited that now I get to share that. So it took me a little while. He's now 5 months old. He's in his bouncer right here. But yes, it was an amazing birth and I'm so excited to share about it. So I want to start with some of the things that I did to prepare for birth. So we did have a doula, which is so helpful. She met with us a few times before, so we got super comfortable with her, and we actually did a birth class with her. So we had that prep and kind of just like understood everything that was going to happen at the specific hospital we were going to, and just learn about dilation and water breaking and all these things that I didn't really have an idea about. So the doula was super integral to us having a great birth. And then I also did the Ellen Fisher birth course, which was so great, super in-depth, and I just feel like helped me a lot, especially a section of it called the mind change section, where you basically kind of change your mindset about birth. So I kind of had a lot of notions of birth being super painful. Everyone in my family had gotten epidurals, all of my sisters. My mom's only births without epidurals were before they were available, so once they were available she was like, oh yeah, that was so much better. So I just didn't have a lot of experience of people telling me that unmedicated births were great or amazing or anything like that, so I felt like that course helped me with that. Some other things I did to prep is I did drink red raspberry leaf tea. I didn't drink a ton of it, but I tried to drink a few cups of it every day in my third trimester, and I would, after it's steeped, I would put it in the fridge with lemon juice so it was cold, and that made it super easy to drink it that way. And I also did do 3 midgeal dates a day. That's supposed to help soften your cervix. Another thing I did the night before he was born is I did do a lot of curb walking. So I don't know if that helped, but that was one thing that I did. I also went on daily walks. I tried to walk a mile or 2 on the beach every day. I tried to do Pilates like 4 to 5 times a week. I also would do at least 1 meditation a day. I'd look up like birth meditation or positive birth meditation. And then I also I wrote down birth affirmations for myself and then recorded myself saying them on my phone, and then I would listen to those on my daily walks. Okay, so that's a lot of the prep that I did. So now let's get into his birth and birth story. So before we went to bed the night before he was born, or the day before he was born, we actually told him, like, you can come tonight, buddy, which who knows if that did anything, but it was pretty crazy that about 2 hours after we said that, then I woke up at 12:30 a.m. and I woke up to pretty strong contractions, and I didn't really know if that's what they were because I had never had any Braxton Hicks contractions or anything like that. So I was kind of like, these feel like period cramps, but they're really close together. They were all 2 to 5 minutes apart, and they were lasting 1 minute long, and most of them were 3 minutes apart. And this kind of threw me off because my doula had said that to call her when my contractions were 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute, and that we'd probably go to the hospital when they were 3 minutes, lasting a minute. So in my mind I was like, are we supposed to go to the hospital like really soon? So I called her up, and I could tell she kind of was maybe unsure if like how strong the contractions were, but then she heard me breathing through one on the phone, and so then she kind of asked me like, do you want me to come now? And I said yes, definitely, that would be so great. So she came and we labored. It took her about an hour. She lived a little ways away. So we labored at home by ourselves for a while. I just had my birth playlist going, just getting things ready, packing up the car, I realized that I didn't shave my legs, so in between contractions I was like shaving my legs because I didn't really know like how much time I had. So then my doula arrived and I was just kind of laboring on the couch. We had our Christmas tree up, the Christmas tree lights were on. It was like pretty peaceful, and then I did start feeling the contractions get more intense, and I started feeling really nauseous, and I was dry heaving like I had a bowl by me because I felt like I might throw up. And so that's when I wondered if maybe I was getting close to transition, which is around like 7 to 8 centimeters. So I was a little worried about that and not being super close to the hospital because it was a little ways away, not super far, but also not very close. So we did decide to go to the hospital when I was starting to feel super nauseous, and we got in the car, and the contractions on the way to the hospital, I don't remember them being super intense. They felt kind of similar to at home. We got to the hospital, and I kind of had to like kneel to squat down at one point and like have a contraction as we were like walking over that way. But we got to the hospital, made it to labor and delivery, and Zach and my doula set up all the tea light candles. We got my speaker going in there again with my birth playlist, turned off the lights. They checked me and I was at a 7. I was 100% effaced and he was really low. And so this was so amazing because some things that I had really hoped for my birth was, one, I wanted to be a 7 or an 8 when I got to the hospital. So that was crazy that that happened. The second was I wanted the birth to be 8 to 10 hours. So we have to wait and see if that one came true. And then other things I wanted was I wanted my water to break naturally. I was hoping not to tear. Those are like the big things. Yeah, you're cozy. So then I labored on the bed for a little while, and then my water popped, and that was the craziest feeling. It just like gushed out and was so, I don't know, it's just kind of like the movies, how I expected. And then I got checked again. I was an 8, and I decided to go in the shower. So I just knelt down in the shower, and my doula or Zach were kind of putting the hot water down my back. But that actually felt like uncomfortable. I couldn't get the water the right temperature. I felt like it always felt like too hot or too cold, so I didn't do that very long. Got checked again. I was at 8.5, and I was feeling a little discouraged because I just wanted to progress a little faster than I was. So then I went to the toilet just to sit on it. Because I've been told something about that position, since your body's like used to releasing on the toilet, it just gets labor going and progressing. So that was so true. Everything intensified so much when I sat down on the toilet, and I had 4 or 5 contractions there that were pretty intense. So then I decided to get checked because I could kind of feel my body starting to like involuntarily push a little bit. Then I got checked again, and I was a 10 with no cervix, which was the best news. I was just so excited, and I kept thinking like, okay, this is it. It had been 7 hours at this point since I first woke up at 12:30 in the morning. And I just thought, this is great, like I'm gonna push for an hour, it's going to be perfect. So I thought I'd push for like an hour or less and be done, and that did not end up happening. I ended up pushing for 3 hours, which was very intense and definitely the hardest part of birth. One thing I always wanted to know before I gave birth is, what do contractions feel like? What does birth feel like? And honestly, it felt very similar to period cramps. If you have had painful period cramps before, which I had, then birth honestly was not that different. Like, it definitely was a little more intense, but it felt very similar to like very bad period cramps. I would say that the pushing was definitely the hardest part, but a lot of that was just because I had to get the hang of pushing breathing. So my doula was helping me like hold my breath so that I was like pushing more effectively. because I had done a lot of work with like pelvic floor physical therapy exercises, and so my doula was telling me you're actually, like, your pelvic floor is very strong and it seems like you're like pulling the baby back up. So I had that problem. I kept, like, the baby would come down and then I'd like suck the baby back up. And so pushing was definitely the hardest, just to get into a rhythm. And I was so exhausted. About halfway through, I was worried about it leading to things like a vacuum or forceps. But my nurses and doula were really great, like helping me the whole way. And the last hour or so, I made a bunch of progress, and that's when I saw his head. Like, we pulled out the mirror. That definitely helped, like seeing his head, and I could see he had hair, which was so exciting. And one other thing I was a little nervous about was the ring of fire. Honestly, I don't really feel like I felt it that strong. Like, pushing in general was intense, but I don't feel like it got like crazy more intense than at that like last part with his head coming out. It was kind of like the whole thing, but it also is kind of a blur since it was 3 hours long. Right before the contraction he was born, he had been with his head partially out for a little while, and so I think a couple of contractions, and so his heart rate did start to drop a bit. So my OB did mention that she might have to use the vacuum if he didn't, if his heart rate kept dropping. And so that was all the motivation I needed, because I did not want her to have to use the vacuum. And I pushed him out the next contraction, and once his head came out, his body just like shot out so easily, which was such a shock to me. So really it was just pushing the head out, and then the body just like slid right out. And that was the best feeling of my life. They just immediately put him on my chest, and it was just so crazy. I think the first thing I said to him was, "You're real," because it just, when they're in your stomach, it's just so hard to comprehend that one day that they're actually going to come out into the world, and it was just the best thing ever. So pushing did go a little longer than I wanted, and I also did end up tearing, just a 2nd degree tear. Wanna be in the video? But yeah, the stitches were painful, but with my new baby on my chest, I was able to distract myself pretty easily. But yes, it was honestly the most beautiful, amazing experience. Zach, my husband, was so great, reading me my birth affirmations the whole time. My doula was so amazing, just knowing what to do to help me progress. My OB was there the last like hour and a half, because I was the only birth in the hospital that day, so she was like rubbing coconut on me so I wouldn't tear as badly. And everyone was just so great. The nurses were amazing, so it was just a really beautiful, positive experience. Honestly, I did not think about getting an epidural at any point, because everything just was progressing, and it was just so exciting to see what the newest thing would be. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention, I did start hemorrhaging shortly after birth, because they typically give you Pitocin automatically after birth to help those after birth contractions start. I did not want that unless I was hemorrhaging, because if I wasn't hemorrhaging, then there wasn't a point to it. But I did end up hemorrhaging, so I did lose some blood, and I did end up getting that Pitocin, and then that stopped it, and it was all under control. But yeah, that is one thing that also was a tiny bit unexpected, but ended up being totally fine. I'm just so grateful for what a miracle birth is, and our little baby boy Crosby. He is so perfect.